The piece of music you're listening to is called Home at Last. It's a solo piano piece which I wrote for the true crime podcast Alibi, based in Johannesburg. You're listening to How I Make Music, a weekly podcast which breaks down a soundtrack that I've written and shares the stories and insights behind how it was made. My name is John Bartman. I'm a music composer and producer from South Africa, and this is How I Make Music. Listen to the opening chord of this composition. It's a simple 1-5 chord, meaning that it has no major or minor status. It doesn't sound particularly happy or sad. If you wanted to make it sound happier, you could add a major third. Or, if you wanted to make it sound sad, the minor third. Choosing one or the other tonality is a way to push the emotion in that direction. So the piece opens up with this neutral tone, 1, 5, 1, and progresses downwards to. You could go between these two chords all day. The interplay between the 1 and the 5 in a scale is the basis of most Western harmony. But what is important is how you get there. In this case, I've gone down from G to F natural to E to D. Contrast that with going down a major route. It's a very small difference, but when you listen to music, your mind is reaching out for solidity. It's reaching out for release, to inform the listener in a subtle way about the tonality of the piece. In other words, whether it's a major or a minor, and how they should feel. To inform them, you can embed subtle little clues like that into your composition. I often bring up the topic of creating variation in repetitive music. Soundtrack music should often be repetitive in order to underpin dialogue or picture without taking away from the action. But music should never be boring, so how do we create variation in such a simple chord progression? The human ear tends to latch on to the top note in any chord. So in this chord, most of us hear that top note. This piece, Home at Last, starts with the descending melody from that note, but later on in the piece you'll hear that the melody changes to start higher up. Variation is the act of changing something. The question is always, what is to be changed or what has been changed? In this case, the harmony is the same. We're still going from a G down to a D minor, but the melody has changed from to. Often with soundtrack music, it's required to have an exact time between visual cues, for example 41 seconds. Super simple variations like this are the key to allowing a piece of music to sound like it has not been copied and pasted. Small but deliberate variations will give the music a much needed human touch. To be quite honest, there's not much more that I'd like to say about this piece of music. I don't feel that nitpicking is really the aim of this show, so we'll listen to the full piece of music in just a minute. But before we do that, thank you for listening to How I Make Music, a weekly show which breaks down an original track that I've written and shares the stories and insights behind how it was made. If you'd like to support my work, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Head over to Apple or iTunes to comment on the show. You're also able to download the track from this episode, Home at Last, via my website, johnbartman.com, JohnBartmann.com. Go to the music page to search my entire library of original tracks by keyword, title, genre, mood, or instrument. A growing library which is designed and devoted to small and independent media creators, podcasters and YouTubers. Thanks again for listening. Now here's Home at Last, a warm solo piano piece for podcasts and YouTube in its entirety.